Well, welcome everybody to the Legacy Lounge. I'm your host, Lady JB, and I am so delighted to be here because, well, lots of cool things are unfolding, and you can probably tell by the background we are not in the studio. Yes, folks, we are on location in Indonesia. This is a very monumental moment for me. I am so blessed and delighted because I'm in Indonesia doing legacy, creating legacy, making impact. So blessed to be here for over the last 2 years. Ignite Publishing and all the people at Ignite, our authors, we are putting together our efforts to build a school in Indonesia. And this week I have flown here to start putting the bricks in the walls and creating the school. And I'm so delighted. And I share that with you because it's part of creating a legacy. I've truly been committed to what can we do to create legacy, ignite lives, impact humanity, and make a difference. And this week is a really special time for me because much of it is coming to fruition. We've been building a school and collecting funds because why? Well, we want to ignite the lives of children. We want to create a legacy. I only think about how powerful it is that this school will be in existence and hundreds of children for years, decades to come will go through this school and be able to experience the power of literacy and learning and community and camaraderie and education. And it's so inspiring to me because that is going to create a legacy in their lives. And they're going to go home and create legacy with their parents. They're going to inspire them, and then they're going to graduate and empower and create legacy in their community, in their countries, and they all are going to go off into the world and create their own legacies. And that is the power of why we do this show and talk about how to create legacy in the world. All of us can do small incremental things that create the ripple effect that is building legacy. And why I do this show is because I want you to realize that you are a legacy maker yourself. One day I just decided how powerful it would be to build a school. I didn't know how, I didn't know the steps, but I started to unpack and uncover what it took to do that. And now 2 years later, here we are, it's coming to fruition. So if you've got a dream and you've got a desire, and there's something inside of you that would like to do something bigger on a grander scale to empower others, you're in the right place because we're talking about legacy for the next 30 minutes with one of our incredible guests. Now, I had the joy of spending time with our guest in Salt Lake City. It was so fantastic because when you're with people and you're next to them and you're in their space and in their environment, you can feel their energy and their vitality, the frequency, and then you get to see the work that they're doing. It's super encouraging. And in fact, David was such an inspiration to me. I came home and made some big changes and some big decisions because, folks, you always want to surround yourself with powerful people who are creating legacy, and that's what this show is about. Let me take a moment to share with you. David Ibarra is a leadership consultant, speaker, and author from Salt Lake City. At age 28 years old, he started his first business, beginning an entrepreneurial career that spans the hospitality, automotive, and leadership consulting industries. He is the founder of eLeader Tech, IBG, David Ibarra Enterprises, and the Think and Grow Rich Institute Latin America. David has held several leadership positions for the Marriott Corporation and was a general manager for a large automobile dealership. These experiences from entry level to leadership prepared him for the Ibarra companies, which include an insurance firm, a brokerage firm, a learning institute, and a performance software company. Now, I tell you all of this because I want you to realize that David has come from humble beginnings to now achieve great things, that he has been committed to legacy. He's an accomplished public speaker, trainer, and success coach who has been invited to deliver keynote addresses all across the United States. He's received a U.S. patent for his performance managed software. Amazing. It's called Executing Standards, and he's also the recipient of an honorary doctorate for Humane Letters from Salt Lake City Community College. Amazing things that David has done, and yet you're going to hear, so stay tuned, of how he all got started and how this legacy began in his life. David, please come to the show and welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
You know, I just want to say thank you again for being such a great host. When I came to your town, you just welcomed me in, you showed me around, and most graciously, I want to say that you let me see the personal side of you, the paintings that you love, the building that you've created, the empire that you're so passionate about, and right down to the photos of your family members and your mom and dad. I just want to say thank you for that because sometimes we can be in environments where people are standoffish or people don't want to allow us to see their inner sanctum. I really feel like legends and legacy makers and people who want to create legacy reach a point where they do want to be more um, connected to one another and be more in community. Can you talk a little bit about the power of community? You're such an influence in Salt Lake City. You have a huge community. Share a little bit about how important it is to let people really see who you are.
Well, I believe that community is one of the five roles of our life. Family, friends, faith, community, health, and wealth. And to be in balance is almost impossible. I tell everybody that'll listen, the important thing in our lives is to never be out of balance in any one of those roles very long. Community. I believe as a member of the state of Utah, in Salt Lake City, and the United States of America, I've got to be involved. And that what that means, and it doesn't just mean politics. It may mean we're building a other side village, tiny homes for our homeless population that are experiencing a crisis. And myself and some of my clients each donated one of the first homes, fully furnished, to be used in this effort. Being involved in what happens in our city, what happens in our state, what happens in the policies, that to sit back and be a victim of something that you don't like is just not my style. I want to be a victor in everything that I do. And it's important to make the lives of others that don't have a voice be heard.
Yeah, I really noticed that about you. Like, you didn't just say, like, that's a problem over there, or I don't want to deal with that, or that's not in my bandwidth. Like, you really do see things right in your neighborhood, right in your community that you've been very passionate about. I saw the signs on your building supporting the new election for the mayor. And you shared with me a lot of the projects that you were a part of. Can you talk a little bit? Because sometimes people feel like, I don't want to get involved because I feel like I can't make a difference. They sort of show up already with the
Right.
defeatist attitude, or the problem is so big, I don't know how to solve it. I'd love for you to give people some inspiration, because I said something the other day to my husband: there's no problem that there's no solution, and every crisis has a resolution. I was listening to the news in the airport and I just kept seeing problem after problem. And I thought, there's always a solution, there's always a resolution. And I noticed that so much with you, that you just move towards solution.
Well, when we talk about even the name of your program, Ignite Legacy, a legacy, what does that mean? For me, I recall being asked to give a keynote speech and at a university, and it was many years ago, in 2004, as a matter of fact. And I began to research the topic, and it happened to be a Latino event, gala, one of the biggest that we have in the state of Utah. And what I read was appalling, that only 11% of Latino youngsters go on to college. 11%. And the first
Wow.
thing that came to my mind, that's just not right. And government should do something about closing this gap. And then it hit me just like a little whisper: government, what about you?
Mm.
And then I thought, I said, you know what? I'm going to do something about this. So I started the Ibarra Foundation. And sure, at first I thought, well, what kind of impact am I going to have? Well, at first I put 5 kids through college. Then it was 10, and then it was 50, then it was 100, and now it's well over 138. Now that's to ignite a legacy. The individuals that took advantage of a full ride scholarship, something that wasn't afforded to me, that all you have to do is show up and do your part, study, learn, and determine what is it you want to do as an occupation that you love. Because if
Mm.
you're not doing something that you love, you're going to live your life in a negative state of mind, and you will dislike going to work. You will suffocate in unhappiness and slowly commit spiritual suicide. And too many members of our society are experiencing just that. And that is my personal mission to change that.
Yeah, you and I have this similar thing about education, like how important it is to learn, to study, to expand your mind, to take in new data. Now, what I find so much as a common thread among legacy individuals is that even though they're learning new things, they're creating, like, I call it, like, here's what they know, here's the data that they take, and then they formulate a third idea. They're not necessarily following the status quo. They're not necessarily just going with what they've learned. They're constantly creating this new third idea, this new synergy, this new synapse connection in their mind. And I feel like you, education is so important because you do have the choice to say, I agree, I don't agree, I like this, I don't, and I can change or add to the problem. Can you share a little bit? You grew up, you grew up noticing problems, you grew up in an interesting environment. How did you take those problems and create that third synergy?
Well, first of all, I grew up in a non traditional upbringing. My mother and father, one a white Mormon woman, age 16, marries a Latino Mexican Indian Zapotec from Oaxaca. And in that time period in Utah, that just was a no no. You just didn't do that. And they experienced the kind of looks and words that were hurtful and ended up getting divorced. My father was drafted and went off to Germany during the Korean crisis. And my mother couldn't take the pressure and dropped my brother and I off at the Utah foster care. I was one, two, and my brother was three or four. And we spent the next 14 years there, and she never came back. And some people can look at that and say, "Oh, I didn't know any difference." The one thing that I got early in my life that you can look at a situation and say, "Why did that happen to me?" Or you can look at a situation and say, "Why did that happen for me? What did the Creator intend for me to gain in experience and knowledge?" Because in every adversity, you must look for the equal or greater benefit. And that was one of my earliest memories is how am I going to get through this? How am I going to understand this new family, this new school? Oh, I'm getting moved again. I know I'm not a part of that family, but how is it that I find a way to feel like I mattered? And for me, there was an individual that ignited legacy within himself, Sam Francis, my fifth grade teacher, that noticed a shy young kid, couldn't spell, didn't do well in school, and took his first year of fifth grade teaching at Joaquin Elementary in Provo, Utah, and took time after school to, to help me, to teach me, and also introduced me to sports to where I accelerated. And that is the first time that I remember somebody coming into my life, igniting
Mm.
some energy, some excitement, and that I mattered. Later, at 18, when I graduate from high school, I thought I was going to have a football scholarship. I had a couple of knee operations. Now I'm ill prepared, going nowhere. I'm from a very humble background, tough neighborhood. I decided to go to community college. I need a job. I get a dishwasher job. I thought would be the most insignificant period of my life. It turned out to be the most significant thing of anything that would happen to me. The owner, Robert E. Farrell from Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor Restaurant in Sacramento, befriended me, showed me why my job mattered, took his coat off, and when he first met me, showed me how to do my job properly, taught me the power of theming, and made us all stand up and recite the theme. What was his big idea? Farrell's features fabulous food and fantastic fountain fantasies for frolic and fun-filled festive families. Now you don't open this restaurant without saying it. And
I love
then
that.
he said, "Hold on, I'm going to introduce you to somebody that you haven't met for a long, long time." I'll be right back. And he came back and handed me a book, Think and Grow Rich by Dr. Napoleon Hill, and told me if I would read it 3 times and highlight the things that I would like to talk about, learn more about, he would become my personal mentor for the rest of his life. I read it. He did. I went from dishwasher to the youngest franchise owner, moving back to Salt Lake City to buy the franchise here. And Mr. Marriott, who took a liking to me, ensured that I would get the money to start this business by ensuring the Marriott Corporation loaned me the money. So when you look at why did this happen for me? Wow, you can gain some wisdom, you can gain some experience, and neither of those ever get old.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, here's what I really want to say. Many people are watching this legacy show and thinking like, I can't make a legacy. I'm not wealthy enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not educated enough. And what you just shared with your teacher, Sam, your boss, the people who are surrounded in your life, everyday people who just made one major investment in you and helped you move forward, those people are, in my opinion, are just as much as building legacy as you are, because they created, they helped, they supported, they lifted up, they're part of the foundation. And so folks, if you're listening and watching this, realize that where you are in your life, you have the power to impact people and ignite people and inspire people and make people do something that absolutely leads them forward into greatness. Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. It's absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, share with me a little bit about some of the key pieces you think make a legacy maker.
Well, just like, the 5 that impacted my life. First, it was my brother, who was 11 months older than I, who didn't get to be a kid because he had to watch over me. He created his own legacy in watching out for his younger brother. Second, a foster mother who took care of us for 8 years, and I got a little bit of that feel of what a family meant. Bob Farrell from Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor Restaurant, Richard Marriott from the Marriott Corporation, the second son of J.W. Marriott. What did those 4 have in common? I just talked about them. I say their names. Now, 2 of them have passed. 2 of them still are alive, but they will never die as long as they're remembered. That is a legacy. You don't need money to build a legacy. Bob Farrell told me that when I made it, I was going to have to pay him back for his mentoring. He wouldn't tell me what the price was. On the 10th year, when I received and the franchise for Salt Lake City, he said, "David, it's time to pay." I'm going, "Oh no." I had just spent all my money. Okay, certainly. What do I owe you, sir? You owe me what I gave you times thousands.
Wow.
You have to commit to time tithing. Time tithing, 2 hours a day, and you can put it into time blocks, which I do on Wednesday nights. But 2 hours of the day, somebody's going to have the courage to walk through that door and ask you a question that they've been worried about asking. And that question is a request for help. And if you give that time tithing, you're going to affect thousands of lives. And that's a legacy. And I have done that for ever since I was 18. And I have helped thousands and thousands of people that can't afford a consultant that I charge everybody else. And I'm not inexpensive to you.
That's right.
But when they come in and they can't afford a mentor, if they'll wait and get in line, they'll get their time, and I'll stay with them until they achieve what they want, as long as they do their work. That's a legacy.
It's phenomenal, because many of us, again, we feel like it's always about the money. We feel like it's always about the achievement or the accolade. The fact that you time tithe every week and you give your services, your help, your support, your mentorship to people in need, Folks, any one of us can do that. You may be a basketball coach. You may play baseball. You might like to fish. You might love computers. You might have a great hobby, a great speller, a great mathematician. There are so many talents that you have that you could just help and support somebody else to get further forward in their lives. Imagine the legacy that you can create. I think it's so easy. It's so obviously affordable. And you and I both know that when you give, you get. And I think that's a big, huge law of reciprocity. You've got to give before you get. And I think legacy leaders really understand that in the giving and in the offering and in the outpouring, they get so much more in return. Whereas many people are like, what do I get first? What are you going to give me? What are you going to do for me? If you can switch that around, you absolutely perpetuate so much more receiving than when you're just waiting to get. I really appreciate that. And I know that you've written a great book. You've got another great book coming out. Can you give us one little juicy tidbit from some of your books so our listeners can get excited about reading what you've written?
Well, I tell you, the cycle of success, which I've created and rewritten in my own voice, and was commissioned to do this and challenged to do it by the Napoleon Hill Foundation, is Live Ready, Beyond, Think, and Grow Rich. But, Dr. Hill's work was written in 1937. And it's hard to understand because it's almost like a different language, even though it's English, and the examples are old. So I've rewritten these principles, but in my words, in my order, and simplified them. But I'll tell you what, Dr. Hill had this thing called positive mental attitude. And I believe it was his 12th principle. I believe as a disciple of his work, not of the man, he was a researcher, but of his work, that belonged number one. Nothing happens until you can gain desire to change something in your life. You cannot gain desire without entering a positive state of mind. Now, you're in either a negative state or a positive state. They're so unfriendly, you can't be in both of them at the same time. So
True.
Learning to become the switch master of your own thought and pivot to positive to gain the desire to find your purpose, to evaluate your talent, build a specialized talent team, to create actions that when executed in faith, you cannot be denied, and to achieve a readiness mindset before you start your day. And when you do those 5 things, the other 5 come free. You cannot be in any other temperament or personality than pleasing. You will have a pleasing personality. You'll look at adversity as simple adjustments, milestones in your journey to get what you want. You will protect your health because you want to feel good. You want to be positive. And you will look at the utilization of time and money much different because you're organized. You're not bored. You're effectively using them, and you'll always remember the promise that everything is a pattern in your life. You have good patterns or bad patterns, and you will be rewarded or penalized according to your patterns. That's the promise of the law of nature and the law of habits. Now, I've just told you all of the principles that were Dr. Hill's in a much simpler way to learn and to utilize in our lives to achieve what you want, to create your legacy.
Boom! I loved it the way you broke it down. And my favorite term was when you said the switch master, because I was having a conversation just yesterday how people just come up with the negative thought, the worry, the stress, the junky thinking. And I was like, well, just think differently. Just tell your brain, okay, that's not the truth. That's not the reality. Let's switch it. Let's turn it. And they were saying, that's really difficult. How do we do that? And you just said, I love this term, the switch master, because it's true. We have to be in control of our thoughts. We have to be able to say, okay, you thought that. Now let's think something different that's going to motivate and propel you forward.
I'm going to say something, if I may,
Please.
that I normally don't include in all of the seminars that I do. And people ask me all the time, hey, you know what? You're pretty good at what you know. I says, heck, I'm pretty old. I've gained experience and I've gained wisdom, But why is it that we don't see you? It's because I'm running the companies that I own. I'm doing what I am suggesting you do. But the first thing to understand is the rules of the game of life.
Amen.
Look, you came from somewhere and you're going somewhere. So this experience on earth, based on that knowledge, cannot be longer than a day. It is not even an overnight trip. So the rules were given that the Dr. Doubt, the adversary himself, has free access to whisper to your subconscious and to create doubt in your mind, to lock your brain and take you to the negative nut house where you can't move, breathe, or execute. Or you can find a purpose, execute, and if you get lost and you've done those two things, you can ask, and the Creator will deliver the answer through your subconscious. All you have to do is be willing to take the nudge. That's the game of life, and that is the way it was set up. And I intend to win it, and I would ask everybody here to do the same. Create your legacy.
Beautifully, 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 beautifully said. So inspiring, folks. I hope that got you feeling riled up. Like, get out of your chair. Let's go do something. Let's take it on. If you want to know how you can find out more about what David is up to, here's the link. And of course, he has some incredible training, wonderful courses, beautiful books. He just, as you can see, spells it out in a way that makes you want to move forward in your life and create your own legacy. Well, the cool news is David is going to stick around in our backstage area. So we're going to be talking for another 30 minutes, another 60 minutes actually, about tools and strategies and tips, actual things that you can start doing right now. If you'd like to join us backstage, go to legacylounge.life, sign up, and get involved in our backstage events. Every single one of our legends. Stick around after the show for another 60 minutes of training with those people who want to, as David said, knock on the door, show up, and ask questions, and he's going to be available. Go to legacylounge.life and find out some more. David, I so appreciate you. You just get me fired up with new ideas and possibilities. I can't wait to talk to you more in the lounge. We'll see you over there in a few minutes. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Well, guests, I want you to know that you are the switch master of your life. You can decide what is important to you and how you want to live your life. David and I were talking, and yes, it was up to this till today. And then from this moment forward, he told me it can be different. It gets to be whatever you want it to be. Just start moving in that direction and make it happen. All right. Well, blessings to you. We'll see you next week on Thursday at the Legacy Lounge.
Now, more than ever, we need to come together to connect with one another. We need to feel the truth in who we are and let go of everything that's happened in the past. We need to empower every person on the planet and awaken hearts, enliven souls, come together, laugh, play, rejoice, connect, create, and love. It's time to ignite humanity. We want you to be a part of something that will impact the future for everyone. We want you to tell your story, share your Ignite moment, show people who you truly are. Be a part of igniting humanity and making a difference in the world and all of our futures.